We welcome you into college basketball on the ACC Network. Today in Littlejohn Coliseum, it's a battle of Tigers. Texas Southern out of the Southwestern Athletic Conference taking on Clemson of the ACC. Hope you're having a great Thanksgiving weekend. And with Jim Davis, Pete Hannity with you. Well, today a Texas Southern team that has played an unbelievable list of opponents so far, all on the road. They will be a handful for this Clemson team.
Road Warriors, battle-tested, played against some of the very best competition in America.
And they have dominated the conference they're in, the SWAC. They feature a point guard who their coach Mike Davis says may be one of the 10 best in the nation, DeMontre Jefferson.
Well, he is tiny, only 5'7", but averaging 22 points a game. More importantly, shooting 48% from beyond the arc.
Meanwhile, the Clemson Tigers getting a great start for Dante Grantham in his senior season, averaging better than 17.
He has been smooth, solid in every phase of the game, Pete.
And Grantham and the Tigers trying to go to 5-1 and win their third in as many regular season games here in Littlejohn this season. As we tip it off, the Elijah Thomas for the Tigers against the 7-2 Trayvon Reed of Texas Southern. Our starting lineups, including Reed averaging a double-double coming in terms of points and rebounds. Second time this season the Tigers have faced a player averaging a double-double in those categories as the Tigers of Texas Southern have the ball first. As for Clemson's starting five, becoming a familiar group and one with really a great deal of experience in college hoops, including Shelton Mitchell, now in his second year in the program, distributing 5 assists per game. As a drive inside by Scott for Texas Southern, no, the ball comes down to the Tigers.
That was just a lob pass up to the big guy, couldn't quite find the handle.
That's Mitchell with the ball. You note, though, he needs to maybe add just a little bit more offense, even though he comes in averaging better than 12 a game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's Mitchell with the basketball, Pete, and his assists have been really, really good. Assist-turnover ratio, outstanding.
Mitchell with just 2 on the shot clock. Grantham down low, has the size advantage on Scott. Can't get it to go, and they'll call it a shot clock violation because the ball did not hit the rim, so it goes back over to Texas Southern, coached by Mike Davis. You probably know about him. Took Indiana to a national title game after his run with the Hoosiers, in which he was the successor to legendary Bob Knight. He guided UAB, and now at Texas Southern in his 6th year, and he's done quite a job. They have won their conference 4 years in a row. And we'll talk a little bit about how he and some of his team are quite familiar with these parts over the past few years. Scott kicking at left wing where Derek Bruce has an open chance of 3. No, and Marquise Reed brings it down for Clemson.
Marquise Reed's been a very, very good rebounder for this Clemson team.
Mitchell wide open wing, no, and the rebound coming down to the Tigers, Dante Clark. That is DeMontre Jefferson with the ball. He's played in 3 of their 5 games. We told you the prodigious numbers from beyond the arc, and averaging 22 points coming off his career high is Jefferson. 24 at Kansas the other night. Shot clock low. Scott driving off the glass and one. And the first points of the ball game registered by Kevin Scott, the senior out of Omaha, Nebraska, doing a nice job going to his left.
No question. A little hesitation dribble there and kind of stood Marquise Reed up, and then he blew by him.
73% from the line this season for Scott, who is one of 2 preseason all-SWAC picks for this Texas Southern team, and the early 3-0 advantage for the visitors.
He's got a lot of hair, Pete. I always am envious of people with a lot of hair, you know?
He's got enough for you and me, and still to keep a pretty nice head of hair himself. Tigers off the first loss of the season Sunday against Temple, but they won 2 out of 3 down in Charleston, in part because of the effort of that guy, number 14, Eli Thomas, who had a double-double last week in a win over Ohio and was also solid in victory against Hofstra as well. And right there, the rejection for Thomas is 8th on the young season.
Great help
what a nice
side.
Defensive job he can do inside at 6'9".
Came from the help side there and did a great job. After DeVoe allowed him to get to the basket.
Jefferson stands just 5'7", and we think that measurement might be a tad generous, but he is quick. Scott from the left wing. Rattles out, no, but there's the 7-2 Reed, and they're going to get him inside. Going to get Eli Thomas of the foul. I thought they might call the travel. Well, let's see.
Second on Marquise Reed.
Wow, quickly 2 on Reed. I didn't see him close enough to be there. I thought it was Thomas, so quickly Clyde Trapp, the freshman from just outside of Columbia, will check in and put a circle around that. Marquise Reed coming in with 13 points a game, right behind Grantham in the team's scoring lead. 2,000 a game, both on Reed. Drive inside by the Charlotte native Dante Clark, and Texas Southern's lead is again out to 3.
That fouls on Reed is huge because he had drawn the assignment of guarding Jefferson.
Grantham on Scott, got too far under, and there's a steal by Jefferson, his 5th of the season. Here comes Texas Southern. They do like to run if they can, but the Tigers will obviously try to keep them in a half-court game today. Jefferson thought about it. Scott underneath against the big guys. Thomas got a hand on it. Here's Grantham. Tigers trying to push the tempo. Good job getting back by Texas Southern and forcing the turnover by Jefferson, knocking it off the body of Gabe DeVoe.
Well, it looks like Clemson's game plan is to post Grantham up down low and bring Eli, let him bring the big guy, Trayvon Reed, away from the basket.
Clark can be a matchup issue on the wing at 6'4". Mitchell defending Jefferson. Little lob for the big fella who taps it on in there, and Trayvon Reed will head to the line. Foul inside against the Tigers. Gabe DeVoe, 3rd on the Tiger team, and DeVoe's 1st.
No doubt about it. The little guy just threw it up, and we don't have anybody to get up there with him, I don't think, because he was way above that rim.
Reed just 50% so far this season from the line, but we told you he's averaging a double-double, 12.6 points per game and 10.2 rebounds. The other player the Tigers have faced averaging a double-double in those categories, North Carolina A&T's Samuel Lujaby, who in fact leads the nation in scoring coming into Friday's action with better than 29 a game and a 3-point play and an early 6-point lead for Texas Southern, the visitors out of Houston, Texas. Trying to establish a good start. They had a solid start in that loss against Temple, and a soft touch by Mitchell from the right wing to get the Tigers within 4.
It's important that Sheldon Mitchell pick up the scoring a little bit, especially with Marquis sitting on the bench.
Bruce with the ball then, one of their 4 Division I transfers, came to Texas Southern from Oregon State. Clark's another. He transferred in from UMass, and he's going to drive right at the lane. Goes up and over, but can't get it to fall, and here comes Trapp and the Tigers. Brad Brownell, you can hear him in the background telling his team to slow it down. Mitchell had a good look, can't get it to go, and there's Kevin Scott on the rebound. So Texas Southern 0-5, we told you they're going to be a handful because they have been winning their conference each and every year over the past 4, and they are road warriors. They rarely play any home games other than their conference games that begin in January, and the teams they played this year is an unbelievable list. There's one from the corner, and it looked like Trapp got a hand on that shot attempt by Clark. There's Mitchell, a little step through, gets the roll, he draws the foul, he'll head to the line. Shelton Mitchell brings the Tigers within 2, tries to get them closer early on here in Littlejohn. Texas Southern the early lead, but Shelton Mitchell will have a chance to bring the Tigers within a point when he goes to the free throw line. Back here in Littlejohn Coliseum, Thanksgiving Friday. Again, hope your holiday weekend has been safe and happy so far with Jim Davis, Pete Hannity with you. But a big storyline early on here for the Clemson Tigers. The fact that Marquise Reed, second leading scorer on the team, with 2 quick personal fouls.
Yeah, Marquise, well, he had the assignment of guarding Jefferson first and foremost, so that's how much value Brad Brownell puts on his defensive effort. That was a ticky-tack foul, if you want to know the truth, Pete. But the officials called it a foul. It's a foul. But Marquise has been really, really helping this basketball team with his, not just with his scoring, but with his defense and rebounding.
Mitchell 83% on free throws coming in. Knocking down that one to get a 3-point play. 8-7. Tigers back within 1. They trailed by 6 moments ago. So Reed's second foul, what Jim's referring to, it looked like they could have called Elijah Thomas. battling for a rebound against the 7-2 Trayvon Reed, but instead they got the Tigers' Marquise Reed, and so he's on the bench for a stretch. Clyde Trapp, the freshman, gets to try to grow up here a whole bunch. Scott, and let's see, it's going to be a turnover. They'll get him, I believe, for the walk, unless the other officials signaled a 3-second violation.
That's pretty good defense by the freshman A.J. Oliver there, Pete.
Mitchell. Oliver checking in at that last timeout. There's another freshman on the floor with Oliver Trapp. Thomas 6'9" on the 7-2. Trayvon Reed breaks him down. A little pump fake. Can't finish. And here comes Texas Southern. Crossover by Bruce. Thought about it. Instead, it'll go to the little guy. And Jefferson sees it rattle out.
He was too wide open, Pete.
Sometimes you get too good of a look. We've seen that a couple of times on both sides so far in the game. And the feed inside, and we'll get a second team foul against Texas Southern. That'll be on Trayvon Reed, and that'll be his first. Tigers with 3 team fouls so far. Clemson, that is, and Texas Southern, that's their second. Scott will get a breather. Give way to Robert Lewis. You see him standing just on the other side of Shelton Mitchell, and Lewis has been a real good player for them off the bench. Mitchell for Grantham for Thomas for the jam.
That was a great little drop pass by Dante Grantham to the big guy.
Tigers get their first lead of this ball game. Bruce with Oliver defending, little spin move on the freshman, little fade for the Oregon State transfer. A junior out of Moreno Valley, California, and back in front goes Texas Southern.
Little pump fake got Oliver off the ground there and gave him the advantage on the drive.
Oh, and that one's going to be a backcourt violation. A.J. Oliver losing it off his shoe. Brad Brownell believes that perhaps the ball was touched. And now, Sean Hull, you see him in the middle of your screen right there. He comes in and says, indeed, it was touched by Texas Southern, so they'll go ahead and reverse the call. So it'll break for Clemson and A.J. Oliver. Mitchell, quick move, but they'll get him for the travel. Good idea, because Thomas would have had an avenue down the left side, but moments ago it was Thomas down low on a pretty feed from Grantham.
Yeah, I think Mitchell stepped on the defender's foot there and got him off balance.
Texas Southern coming in off a loss on Tuesday against Kansas, 114-71 in Allen Fieldhouse. Bruce, and they'll get the foul against Oliver, and that'll be the first on the Tiger freshman. 4 on the Clemson team. Prior to their game against Kansas, they visited the Carrier Dome at Syracuse. They have been to Columbus, Ohio to face Ohio State this year. Their first 2 games were a little bit of ways from their home in Houston out in the Pacific Northwest, at national runner-up Spokane, and then at Washington State, a Washington State team. They led by double figures, nearly 20 points, good ways into the second half, and eventually lost their first game in overtime. Thomas, the turnaround over the 7-2 Reed, and the Tigers of Clemson move back in front, 11-10.
That is great basketball right there. Once again, another really good feed by Dante Grantham. Bounce pass down below the knee. Very difficult to defend that pass.
Right wing, there is Bruce, and he drains a 3. Derek Bruce hits him at 32% beyond the arc, and another lead change, our 4th here in the last couple of minutes. And a 2-point Texas Southern lead. They've been up by as many as 6 points so far. Down low, left block, and Thomas finishing inside. That's become a nice weapon here early on, even with the 7-2 Reed defending for Texas Southern.
You gotta love that. They're going right after big guy.
Jefferson, quick move on Grantham, and he finishes before Thomas could help out.
It's hard to beat quickness, I can tell you that right now.
Mitchell spins inside. Wide open is trapped from the left wing. Can't get that one to fall. Bruce goes way up high. Other than the 7-2 read for Texas Southern, most of their guys are in that
guard range.
6'1 to 6'4 range, with the exception, of course, of Jefferson on the other end. And a drive inside by Robert Lewis. And I believe he will head to the free throw line when we come back. A.J. Oliver, the foul. Texas Southern, the 2-point lead. Texas Southern, the 2-point advantage on Clemson here in Littlejohn Coliseum with Jim Davis, Pete Hannity back with you. Well, 8 days ago down in Charleston against Ohio, Eli Thomas had a double-double, 17 points, a career high, 15 rebounds, and that is what he can do not only inside but from the free throw line and on both ends of the court.
Yep, no question about it. Now, if they can keep pounding the ball down that deep, there's no question what the outcome of this game is going to be. But they've got to keep them turning the ball over. Clemson's got to at least get one good look at the basket, and then on the other end, they're sending them to the free throw line too much. 2 fouls on Marquise Reed, 2 fouls on A.J. Oliver.
Thomas, one of 4 Tigers, double figures in scoring, and is nearly 8 rebounds a game, leading the team. Here is Robert Lewis out of Compton, California, junior. Now 3 out of 3 in the early going this season from the foul line. He looks to make it a 4-point lead once again for the visitors. He does. They've been up by as many as half a dozen so far in a 17-13 ball game. Just under 11 to go. Mitchell left the lane, working inside. They're going to ring up Marquise Salmon, who just checked in. Transfer from Wagner. And that's his first for Texas Southern. The team fouls now at 5-3. Clemson with the 5. Good guy for Brad Brownell to have go to the free throw line. We saw Shelton Mitchell, nothing but net in his first foul shot of the ball game earlier. Comes in at 83%, and what do you know?
You jinx him.
The jinx, just like we jinxed Marquise Reed, a guy who shot over 90% last year, earlier this season. One out of 2 for Mitchell, 3-point game.
It's all about timing, Pete. Not necessarily the jinx, but it's all about timing. He was off balance and everything else on that first shot. It looks like Clemson's jump switching on Jefferson. Every time he comes off the screen, they switch. He's too quick.
What a feed. What a feed by Jefferson. Little fake one around Donnell of the Tigers and fed it inside to Salmon. 5-point advantage.
He's too quick for Grantham, that's for sure.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, number 3 in the Texas Southern uniform. Here's Grantham, and on his way to the hole, lost the ball, and then contact is made, and let's see if they'll get him on the charge. And that'll be the case, and now 16 fouls on the Tigers. And for Dante Grantham, foul-wise, that's his first. And let's take another look. Grantham, I think, had a step on the defenders, but he simply lost the ball.
Help side defender, secondary defender was there. He was outside the restricted area. No question about the call.
Brad Brownell chatting with one of our officials, Chuck Jones. Jefferson saw the double team come. Lewis gets it to Bruce, who can't fire the open three. He's got it to go, and here comes Gabe DeVoe and the Tigers trapped. Donnell, he can hit him from long range, and he does that time. The Michigan transfer was 50% on 9 out of 18 a year ago for the Wolverines, and now he's 5 out of 7 for the Tigers so far in the early part of the campaign. Back to a 2-point deficit for Clemson.
Jefferson, big basket.
Drains it. Trap came out to defend, but Montre Jefferson again makes it a 5-point Texas Southern lead. Tigers trying to go 5-0 all time against SWAC opponents and 2-0 against Texas Southern, a team they played the well in Greenville 2 years ago. That one missed. Battle. Donnell able to keep it alive, and let's see, we're going to get a held ball. Bruce and Donnell, and the arrow pointing Clemson's way. The Clemson bench wanted a foul called. So we told you, DeMontre Jefferson, real good scorer, but also 3.5 assists a game. Gets one right there.
Yeah, he's got great body lean. When he gets a shoulder by that defender, there's nothing they can do.
First 30 for the Tigers.
Texas Southern gone to a 2-3 zone here.
Fly trap pressed into extended duty in the first half with Marquise Reed in early foul trouble. Got a couple in the first couple of minutes. Look at the reverse that time by Shelton Mitchell.
What a beautiful, beautiful reverse layup.
8 points in the game for Mitchell. He and Thomas have scored 16 of the Tigers' 19 so far. From way downtown, Lewis can't get it to go. He is a 46% three-point shooter, and Trapp able to get it for the Tigers. Mitchell, quick move. Open wing to DeVoe for three, and Gabe DeVoe knocks down his first tray attempt of the ball game. Tigers senior out of Shelby, North Carolina, just 26% beyond the arc in the early going, but that one ties us up at 22.
Man, I'm telling you, Shelton Mitchell is creating, getting to the basket, laying it in. He's playing very, very well right now.
In the corner, Scott. And around the world it goes for Kevin Scott, just a 29% three-point shooter. And Texas Southern back in front by 3. We've had 4 lead changes in the early going, and the visiting Tigers have led by as many as 6.
And they've gone back to their man-to-man.
Scott Spencer missed a good part of last year due to injury, but seen his minutes increase over the first 5 games in there, and firing for the first time. Can't get it to go for Clemson.
Texas Southern has a very, very small lineup in there right now, Pete. I don't know why Clemson needs to take advantage of that and take it down deep in the paint.
Jefferson with the freshman Trapp defending. Scott thought about it from 3, inside, dishes, offensive foul is called, and Mark Donnell drawing the charge for the Tigers. Kevin Scott's first and the 4th on Texas Southern. Tigers shoot 34% beyond the arc as a team. They're going to need this out of guys like Gabe DeVoe this afternoon. Texas Southern by 3. Texas Southern up by 3 here in Littlejohn. Opening half, just under 7 to play. They've got DeMontre Jefferson. Mike Davis, who knows a thing or two about really good players, says he might be one of the best point guards in the country.
Well, he's certainly good. There's no question about it. He can get the ball in the paint and dish to the open player, and he can knock down the 3 with 48%. That's as good as anybody just about. And I guess him being only 5'7", and like you said, Pete, that's a stretch. He proves that it's not necessarily the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog.
Jefferson coming in off 24 points against Kansas on Tuesday, a career high for the sophomore out of Milwaukee. Mike Davis, the head coach right there behind the official for Texas Southern, played with a pretty good point guard when he was a star at Alabama in the early 80s named Dennis Watley, who wasn't much bigger than DeMontre Jefferson. And of course was around quite a few in his many years coaching either at Indiana, UAB, or as an assistant. And that time, Gabe DeVoe from the other wing. Just like that, we're tied back up at 25 all.
It's a good basketball game. Both teams playing hard on the defensive end and making plays.
Jefferson thought about it and almost was able to blow by Trapp. And they'll get the freshman out of Columbia, Clyde Trapp, with his first. That'll be the 7th on the Clemson team. Gabe DeVoe, we saw him in the left wing earlier, and he's a guy, again, living in the mid-20s from beyond the arc. He's got to get into the mid-30s for this Clemson team as the year goes on.
For the young player watching this game, Pete, that is perfect form right there, shooting the basketball. Straight up, straight down, great balance, elbow into the basketball. Good job by Gabe DeVoe.
Jefferson shooting the 1-and-1. And you see Texas Southern just 14 fouls on them so far. Monte Jefferson at 70% from the line. Missed 2 games early in the year due to suspension. Those against Ohio State and Syracuse. And I wonder what kind of difference he might have made. But in the 3 games he's played against Gonzaga, Washington State, and Kansas for these guys, and now a 4th year against Clemson, he has certainly been a factor. What a good-looking player he is. 2-point advantage for Texas Southern. They've led by as many as 6 here in the opening half. Oh, gets hung up. Elijah Thomas now looking to back in on the 7-2. Reed to just check back in, and Thomas a double-figure scoring afternoon. 10 points now as he gets the roll.
That was a great job for the left-hander, making the turn over the left shoulder and shooting with the right hand on the baby hook.
Tigers now going zone. Something Brad Brownell talked about he'd introduce this year. And
well, we've got some foul trouble. Marquise Reed is back in there with 2.
Reed quickly picking up 2. Look at Dante Grantham coming up with a steal. Tigers move it. Reed for the Tigers reversing. No, and the rebound by the 7'2" Reed of Texas Southern. And he wants a turnover right there. Got to be careful, of course. It's TV. You can see who's doing what, but Tigers on Tigers, and each team has a read.
Yeah.
But about a foot difference in height. The Tigers' read is 6'3". Texas Southern's read 7'2". There is Scott. Bruce, little fake, goes to the hole, and he gets the roll. DeVoe came over to help out late, but Derek Bruce, the transfer out of Oregon State, another bucket for him, and back out to a 2-point Texas Southern advantage.
I'll tell you, this Texas Southern bunch is very well schooled. They really use the shot fake very well.
DeVoe, he hit one from a little closer over that way a while back, and he's 3 out of 3 beyond the arc. Gabe DeVoe, huge buckets for this Clemson team from beyond the arc. Tigers move back in front, our 5th lead change here in the opening half. From long range, Jefferson, no, and Gabe DeVoe with a rebound. He's trying to build a bit of a lead here for the first time. Thomas with a spin move off the window. Elijah Thomas coming off his career high last Thursday when he had 17, pushing that number here in the opening half. He now has 12 points, and Clemson's biggest advantage so far at 3. Biggest lead so far for the Clemson Tigers over Texas Southern, 32-29. Battle of head coaches in this game with ties to the state of Indiana. Brad Brownell from there. Of course, Mike Davis coached in that state for a good time. Take a look at what each has done during the course of his career in terms of postseason and several trips to the NCAAs for Davis. Of course, that 2002 was a national title game run for Indiana. That 2011 NCAA trip, he lost to Brad Brownell and the Tigers in Dayton, Ohio in the first 4. Meanwhile, Brad Brownell, of course, got the Tigers back to the NIT last year, looking to get Clemson back into the NCAAs. But each coach, interestingly, has taken 3 different programs to the NCAAs. Davis with Indiana, UAB, and Texas Southern, and Brad with UNCW, Wright State, and this Clemson program. Tigers run, but Jefferson slowing things up for Texas Southern. Battling in front of the Texas Southern bench. And scrappy play by Gabe DeVoe, but it'll go back over to our visitors from Houston, Texas.
And that was a great defensive play by Jefferson there. We had him 3-on-1, and little guy just gets a finger on the ball, creates a loose ball, and then comes up with it. Give him credit. Here's a 1-3-1 half-court trap. They're trying to make the little guy throw over the top of those big, long arms of the Clemson Tigers.
Keep an eye for someone like Bruce over at the top of your screen over in the corner. You can usually get an open shot against the 1-3-1, but a travel rung up by Dwayne Gladden. And a turnover for Texas Southern, and so in the ball game now. About a dozen turnovers combined for the two teams. Tigers and Clemson 6. And Texas Southern, that's their 5th. DeVoe, he scored from the outside. Now he scores from just left of the paint. And Clemson continue to build on its best lead of the afternoon. Out to a 5-point advantage after Texas Southern jumped out to a quick 6-point lead.
Now they're going back to the 2-3 matchup.
Shelton Mitchell right there in front of Jefferson. Bruce gives it back to their point guard, who off-balance pass, still 10 in the shot clock. Bruce lobbing, and a throwdown by Trayvon Reed. The second time so far we've seen them use his 7'2" frame to their advantage inside.
Yeah, we got to stop the penetration. Clemson's allowing them, and usually it comes up after a shot fake. gets them in the air, and then they penetrate.
Marquise Reed for Clemson hung up high by Clark. Now Grantham, relatively quiet so far, off balance force that time. No, but Elijah Thomas, good scrappy work on the offensive glass. Kevin Scott picks up his second for Texas Southern. Tough to defend 7-2, especially when he elevates.
You can't teach big, that's for sure, and he does elevate. Got pretty good hands. He did miss the first lob they threw to him, but he's caught those last two and threw them down.
Thomas for Clemson, first trip to the line this afternoon. Comes into the ball game 67% this year. Last season he was 48% for Eli Thomas. And you see Scott with those two opening half fouls, head to the bench. One of their starting forwards replaced by Robert Lewis. Thomas leads all scorers with 12 so far, make it 13. Marquise Reed will head to the bench. Probably won't see him until the second half with those two fouls. Clyde Trapp playing extended minutes in this first half. That's had him out high defending Jefferson. Dante Clark inside, and Thomas another block. Tigers a chance to build their biggest lead so far in this opening half. Ooh, Mitchell, little ping pong action that time, and Bruce coming away with it. 2-on-1, only DeVoe to beat. And we will see a trip to the free throw line for Derek Bruce once again.
That's two fouls on DeVoe now. Once again, good defensive effort back here by Texas Southern. Got a hand on a basketball there. And I'll tell you, I'm really pleased with the play of Elijah Thomas. He's been solid on both ends of the floor, blocking shots, getting defensive rebounds, and posting low. And I'd like to see Clemson get him the basketball down low a little more often.
Bruce front end of the 1-and-1. They say the foul was committed on the floor. He's a 70% free throw shooter. The Tigers with DeVoe just picking up his second. Reed early on got two for Clemson, and A.J. Oliver also has two. So in a game where you need your guards to play a good long time, three of them, two fouls apiece. Tigers with 8 as a team, and Texas Southern is yet to reach the point where they'll put Clemson in the bonus. That may not happen with under 1:30 to go here in the opening half. Reed off the fake. And Bruce, here comes Texas Southern trying to get this game tied back up. We've got 5 opening half lead changes. Jefferson, that one might have been affected by Trapp. And DeVoe doesn't have the numbers. Step back three, and Gabe DeVoe, boy, he has been on fire, came in. Struggling up late from beyond the arc, but Gabe DeVoe now from long range, 4 out of 4. He's got 14 points. He leads everyone in scoring.
Now he came off a great screen there by Elijah Thomas.
Lewis on Trapp, and Clyde Trapp takes it away. Ahead to Grantham. And Dante slipped past the 5'7" Jefferson. Little throwdown the other way to the 7'2" Reed, who says, take that. And the Auburn transfer is fouled as well. Wow, take another look at this one. That's Grantham. Yeah, let's face it, Jefferson did the smart thing. He had no chance other than to foul him.
Right. And
Tigers built a brief 7-point advantage, but a chance for a 3-point play. As Trayvon Reed, 50% from the line, but he gets that one to go. And the big fella now, 2 out of 2 from the line, 40-36 game. So Grantham with his throwdown, but Texas Southern likes to get up and go. Had the quick response as we're at a point in the half where the shot clock is turned off, and Brad Brownell with a timeout to burn will go ahead and do just that. So Texas Southern's Jefferson, after seeing Grantham blow by him, well, he and his teammates realized that they had an opportunity on the other end, and give credit right there to Robert Lewis. into Jefferson quickly for the quick recognition.
You would be shocked, Pete, at the number of wide open layups on one end that result in a wide open layup on the other end. And just poor defensive transition. The big guy's going up for the dunk, and Clyde Trapp didn't think he fouled him, but he ran by him there and probably made it a little too obvious for the official.
Now, so many times you're trained when the ball's in your offensive end to try to go to the glass in case of miss, but that's such an obvious play for Grantham that, again, your instincts still tell you go to the hole instead of backpedaling and denying on the other end, and it'll happen throughout the course of the season. So the Tigers with 20.9 seconds remaining before the break. We'll have Grantham inbound over on the sideline. And Mike Davis, he and his team not only playing Clemson for the second time in 3 years, making their third trip in as many years to the upstate of South Carolina, because they were playing in Greenville last year when they made the NCAA tourney, and they got to face another ACC team in that one, a team called the North Carolina Tar Heels. They were UNC's first win on their way to another national title. Under 10 to go, Mitchell out high.
Maybe a pick and pop here. No, he's done. Give it to Shelton down low.
Good denial inside by Salmon. Half-court heave, Jefferson. And that's how the first half will come to an end. Give Texas Southern credit. They defended for the final 20 seconds to keep this a 4-point deficit as Mike Davis and crew head on into their locker room, and the Clemson Tigers head to the halftime locker room 4-0 this season when leading at the break. They're up by 4 here in Littlejohn. 4-point Clemson lead at the half. Some of us have already transitioned from one holiday to the next as we welcome you back into Littlejohn Coliseum. Along with Jim Davis, Pete Ganity with you. A first half in which the Clemson Tigers shot nearly 65% from the field. Texas Southern just under 50%. And although Texas Southern is a team that is basically guard-oriented with the exception of a 7-2 ball player, they match Clemson's points in the paint with 18 each. As we take a look at our first half highlights, let's start out with the visitors from Houston, Texas. And again, attack the paint seems to be their mantra.
No question. And they've done a great job doing that with Jefferson and Scott. But I would imagine for Clemson, the thing they're concerned about right now is Dante Grantham averaging 17.2 a game, has 2 in the first half. So they're going to try to get him on track, I'm sure, early on in the second half.
Montre Jefferson, a preseason all-SWAC player. And you saw what he could do both inside and outside. That's their 7-2 center, Trayvon Reed, an Auburn transfer. As for the Tigers, haven't had a whole lot of Dante Grantham, but Shelton Mitchell early on, and then the inside-outside for Eli Thomas and Gabe DeVoe. And Mark Donald also getting into the act, too.
Exactly. Gabe come in and gave them 3 threes there, or 4 threes, actually. But 3 right there in the closing minutes of the first half, and really enabled Clemson to get back in the lead and maintain the lead.
DeVoe 4 out of 4 beyond the arc. There's Grantham with a throwdown late in the half to get himself into the scoring column, but Thomas and DeVoe combined for 27 of Clemson's 40 points so far. 14 points so far for DeVoe, 13 for Thomas. Meanwhile, Montre Jefferson and his Texas Southern team, they don't have a double-figure scorer. Jefferson, their top scorer, was 7. They are led so far by Derek Cruz, who has 9. As the Clemson Tigers try to improve the 5-1 in the season, 3-0 in the regular season here in Littlejohn Coliseum, and continue some early season momentum ahead of their ACC Big Ten Challenge ball game on the road in Columbus, Ohio, coming up Wednesday night against the Ohio State Buckeyes.
And this team, Texas Southern, has already played in Columbus, Ohio, as you mentioned earlier.
And that was going to take me to my point. I would suppose the Clemson Tigers will see Texas Southern again on film, as that'll be one of the games they break down. Texas Southern playing another ACC foe in Clemson today. They've already played Syracuse. To this point in the season, this is their 6th game. They have played Gonzaga, the national runner-up, which year in and year out dominates the West Coast Conference. They played a Pac-12 team at Washington State, a Big Ten team at Ohio State, Syracuse out of the ACC, Kansas out of the Big 12, Clemson out of the ACC. And Mike Davis, his team, by the end of December, with only road games until their conference play begins, will have traveled close to 19,000 miles. And you saw A.J. Oliver, the back of A.J. Oliver in the other box there. And we're going to tell you interesting connection between the Texas Southern coach and the freshman guard for the Clemson Tigers. Talk about that in a moment. Here we go in the second half, and there's Scott hung up in the double team, forcing one, almost got it to go, but he gets his own rebound, and it's a 2-point game.
Giving up second chance points always haunted me, Pete.
DeVoe, big first half from the outside, finishing close to the basket. He's 6 out of 6 from the field. And Gabe DeVoe building on quite the afternoon. He now has 16 points. The Tigers senior out of Shelby, North Carolina, is just 2 off of his career high established back when he was a freshman. From the right wing, Bruce. And there's Thomas on the rebound.
Little Jefferson gets lots of deflections. He got a hand on that pass.
DeVoe, left elbow, leaves it short. There's the Auburn transfer, Reed, with the rebound. And a pull-up for Jefferson over Mitchell, and another rebound by Thomas, who is starting to build in that category as well. He now has 7 to go with his 13 points so far. And from outside, that one's not going to go, and here comes Texas Southern.
Shooting a little quick now. I don't think Coach Brownell's happy with that at all.
Over their first 6 games, Texas Southern has entered the second half leading just once. That was at Washington State, a game they saw eventually turn out to be a 2-point loss in overtime. Tigers extending the defense, under 10 on the shot clock. Dante Clark playing back near his hometown of Charlotte. No. Thought about it. A little fadeaway. Clark, graduate student, only season playing with Texas Southern after his first 3 years were spent at Massachusetts. And once again, Texas Southern down by just 2. And that foul will go against DeMontre Jefferson, far from the basket. And a guy who didn't leave the floor in the first half, and of course starts out in the second half, picks up his first. Gabe DeVoe, on the other hand, having himself quite the afternoon. First team foul on either side here at half number 2. Reed had 2 quick ones, goes inside, and they're going to say that was knocked away from behind by Derek Bruce. Tigers will keep.
That was really good offense right there. Coming off an on-ball screen. That's a good block.
Mitchell for DeVoe. He gets the attention of Scott. Thomas quick spin on Trayvon Reed. They'll wave it off and call Elijah Thomas with the travel.
Very good spin move right there.
And you can see just that extra little movement back to his left, and they call him for the walk.
A little bit off balance there, shuffled him.
His opposing center Reed is 7'2", but 240, so that's not a whole lot of bulk on a guy that tall. Here from the right wing is Clark, missing on a 3-point attempt. He's a 30% shooter coming in. Clemson's lead remains 2. Crossover Reed, glider, and Thomas inside, back up with it, gets it to go.
He's playing a well of a game.
On his way to a potential double-double for the second time in 8 days. Now has 15 points to go with 8 rebounds. He had 17 and 15 against Ohio down in Charleston last week. He's thought about it from outside. From way downtown, Scott, bank not open. It's a Friday on a holiday weekend. Here come the Tigers. Grantham, Mitchell, clear path. And he puts it up and in, and Mike Davis says, hold everything. His team falls behind by 6 here early on in the second half. Taking a timeout, Shelton Mitchell. Relatively quiet scoring-wise in the first half, but a bucket for him and a 6-point Tiger lead here in the second. Tigers have a 6-point lead. Texas Southern's Mike Davis called the timeout, yelled at his team for about 30 seconds. They've been standing on the floor for almost 2 minutes. Brad Brownell and company breaking their huddle. Gabe DeVoe, he and Eli Thomas, just 2 points off of their respective career highs because DeVoe has been hitting from downtown and close range as well.
Once again, he's got great shooting form, and great job there on the dribble drive.
Gabe DeVoe's career high is 18 points, established as a freshman against his home state, NC State Wolfpack here in Littlejohn. So long ago, the building looked a whole lot different back then. So he's got a chance to better that. Reed feeding Clark, left elbow, and a bucket out of the timeout. Nice play design by Mike Davis. Texas Southern, a team with 2 preseason all-SWAC players and the fine point guard Jefferson and their small forward Kevin Scott. They lost 3 fifth-year seniors who they think would have been really good for them. One of them was their league's player of the year last year, Zach Lofton. He went to New Mexico. He's averaging better than 25 points a game for them. They also lost players to ETSU and Illinois State. Tigers almost lost the possession right there, so they're picked to win their league again. But you imagine how much tougher they'd have been without the attrition we just mentioned. Here comes Scott spinning inside on Trapp. Did well just to get the shot off, and good defense by the freshman. For the Tigers of Clemson, Clyde Trapp to around a Texas Southern hoop. Marquise Reed from downtown had a good look. Elijah Thomas battling, and a foul on the floor. So the Gabe DeVoe show continuing here in Littlejohn. Tigers have a 4-point lead, but Gabe DeVoe has scored 16 of the Tigers' points so far. Brad Brownell Xing and Owing. His team leads by 4. A.J. Oliver just reached in right there behind our score bug for the Tigers, one of the reserve guards. He was in warm-ups before the game, and Mike Davis and Texas Southern's team arrived, and Mike Davis, the head coach of Texas Southern, immediately walked over to A.J. Oliver. They had about a 10-minute conversation. That's because when Mike Davis arrived at UAB in the middle of the last decade to be their head coach, there was a young kid living there in Birmingham named A.J. Oliver, whose mom was the women's coach at UAB, Audra Smith. And of course, she has since taken over at Clemson. So Mike Davis remembers A.J. Oliver as a young guy, as Oliver gets some instruction from one of the Tiger assistants, Dick Bender. And oftentimes, A.J. would come hang out at the UAB men's practices. So
I can imagine.
Saw him developing as a player.
He's been hanging out around this gym for 2 or 3 years now. So, but a little note right here. Sheldon Mitchell is still on the bench getting a much-deserved rest. He had to play a lot of minutes in the first half because of the foul trouble of Marquise Reed. Didn't get any rest at all in the first half.
Mike Davis and our officiating crew had a question about the shot clock, and once again the Texas Southern coach will head over there to the scores area again. He's having a laugh with Chuck Jones while you see Sean Hull visiting with the folks who push the buttons. I guess we would have concern if we saw some type of smoke or steam coming from the various apparatus that they're using. As you can see, a very high-tech setup to make sure the shot clock is working. Of course, Mike Davis, we told you about his long time in coaching. You're probably familiar with it. And again, his last NCAA tourney trip with UAB was in 2011 when he went against Clemson in the first 4, Brad Brownell's first year with the Tigers, and that was a ball game that was supposed to tip at around 9:30, 9:40 that night in Dayton, Ohio. It didn't get going until about 11:10, as I recall, because UNC Asheville and Texas San Antonio played a double overtime game before that, and it wasn't a quick double overtime game, let's put it that way. And the Clemson team then had to depart from Dayton's arena. I think the Tigers game got done around 12:50 a.m. against UAB. Plane went wheels up out of Dayton at like 1:45, 2 in the morning, and Tigers arrived at their hotel in Tampa for their next round game in the NCAA. On a Wednesday morning at about 5:45 is when heads hit pillows, and then Thursday, the next day, it was a noon tip-off against Bob Huggins in West Virginia. So Mike Davis part of the front end of what was a real travel odyssey for the Clemson basketball team back in the 2011 NCAA tourney. Held ball right there. And let's see that sequence once again.
Speaking of road woes, this Texas Southern team played in Lawrence, Kansas on Tuesday night. Flew into Clemson on Wednesday, came in, practiced on Wednesday, practiced yesterday, Thanksgiving Day, and here we are playing on Friday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, and it's by design. It's not that they can't get non-conference teams to come play them home. Mike Davis just prefers to play road games at this time of the year, because even though he says they have a very nice arena, he just doesn't feel like they're going to get enough marquee opponents in there. And let's face it, Houston, Texas has a lot going on that he would rather just have his team face an elite schedule. And I mean, after this, they still have games against an Oakland team that Tiger fans saw how good they are, a Toledo team that's going to be pretty good in the MAC this year, and some other of the Power 5 teams. Nice feed inside, and Gabe DeVoe ties his career high now with 18 points. Tigers back out by 6. But he just feels like that out of a one bid league, if he can win the SWAC, he'll go to the NCAAs. If they can luck into a 15, maybe even a 14 seed, they're not going to face anyone in the tournament that's much better than who they played back in the non-conference. Interestingly, the University of Houston is using Texas Southern's arena this year for their home games, because Houston has a renovation going on at their arena, so it probably helps the whole scheduling deal that they're not home at all early on in the season. And Eli Thomas off a pretty feed, and he ties his career high, 17 points now this afternoon. Thomas matching the career number he put up against Ohio last week. DeVoe scoring 18 points in a game for the first time since his freshman year against NC State, and that one going to be sent the other way as an illegal screen called inside on Trayvon Reed. Take a look, another look at the Tigers able to do some good work getting points.
I'll tell you, that's a great job by Marquise Reed. Good feed. You know, the director of athletics at Texas Southern has to love this too, because they get a pretty good paycheck at every one of those arenas they play at.
It certainly helps the budget. Their football program's FCS. I'm not all that familiar with how many checks they go on the road and get. And Thomas, I should say DeVoe rather, teaming up today with Thomas. Lights out, outside and inside, and Gabe DeVoe is now perfect from beyond the arc at 5 out of 5. An answer by Texas Southern as Clemson has built its biggest lead of the ball game, which is cut back down to 9. So a new career high for Gabe DeVoe with 21 points. Reed tries to add to the fun, can't get it to go. How about that? Gabe DeVoe with 13 and a half minutes to go here in regulation, a career afternoon. Maybe there was something in the turkey yesterday, but boy, he has been lights out beyond the arc. He's 8 out of 9 overall and 5 out of 5 beyond the three-point arc.
I would love to have Dave DeVoe's face beside Christian Wilkins' face. They look just alike.
Tigers defensive end who, of course, carries just a little bit more girth than DeVoe. And, well, Gabe DeVoe's 6'3". That's about in the same height range as Christian Wilkins.
I said something to Gabe about looking like Christian. He said, no, I was here first. Christian looks like me.
There you go. The Tiger lead at 9 points, and inside a foul will be called against Dante Grantham. Grantham relatively quiet day scoring-wise so far. The Tigers' top scorer just 2 points, but they haven't needed him with the combination of Thomas and DeVoe. 38 of the Tigers' 53 points, and each matching or exceeding his career high. Let's see if that was touched by Clyde Trapp, and I think it was, but that certainly wasn't the plan for DeMontre Jefferson and Texas Southern on the inbound. You mentioned the athletic director for Texas Southern. That's his son who just checked in. Kanan McClellan, second year in the program, but he redshirted last year. Jefferson, top scorer for Texas Southern, trying to add to his day, and he knocks down the three. All things considered, a relatively quiet scoring day so far for DeMontre Jefferson. Gets in double figures, 10 points in the ball game. And he's now 2 out of 5 beyond the arc. He's a 48% three-point shooter. Grantham, a little floater goes for the Tigers senior out of Martinsburg, West Virginia. And Clemson moves to a 55-47 advantage. At 5-7 going inside, Jefferson kicks it on the wing. Trapp deflecting it over to Grantham. Here comes Clemson, the lob for Grantham. Marquise Reed giving the fine. Grantham the finish. A 10-point Clemson advantage.
How good was that?
Tigers within one of their largest lead of the afternoon so far. And another foul to Clemson. So Grantham quickly picking up his third. Montre Jefferson trying to keep his team in the ball game. He's going to need to do a lot more of that. Pretty much created his own shot right there off the dribble.
I keep looking down for Shelton Mitchell. I don't know if he's hurt or what, but he hadn't been in very much in the second half.
Grantham goes to the bench with those 3 fouls. You see DeVoe getting a breather. Derek Bruce, pretty good game so far scoring. That one tried to force the action, couldn't get it done. Scott Shelton back on the floor for the Tigers with the ball. Feed to Trapp, and we've got a travel called against the Clemson freshman out of Lower Richland in Columbia. Well, the Tigers extending what was a 4-point halftime advantage to 10. Plays like that. Marquise Reed finding Dante Grantham. Clemson rolling toward win number 5 on the season right here with some showtime as well. Tigers lead by 10, just under 12 to go here in our second half with Jim Davis, Pete Hannity with you. Eli Thomas, Gabe DeVoe have scored 38 points. Their teammates have combined for 19. Gabe DeVoe with 5 of the Tigers' 6 made three-pointers, and he does a nice job creating his own shot.
He does. That was a nice step back off the bounce right there, and then he gets a catch and shoot for this jumper.
Start time on a Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, but he's going to want more of these. Of course, once you get to conference play, you play a lot of mid-afternoon games. Jefferson and Trapp will be called for the reach-in.
Foul is called on Clyde Trapp. That's his third. Tigers' 4th team foul.
And you see that Jefferson, that quick first step, it's really tough to defend.
Quick first step, got good head fakes in there. He's a player.
3 fouls on Trapp, team fouls even at 4 apiece. Mark Donnell is checked in the middle there for Clemson. His job to defend the 7-2 Reed, and we're going to get an illegal screen on Reed, the Auburn transfer.
That's 2 in a row. Coach Davis a little perplexed there. He don't understand why that was called. But anyway, he's rolling into the defender when the defender goes 1 under.
Reed, a 3rd foul on him. He'll check out. He's averaging a double-double, points and rebounds. Just try to wave to his team's bench that he's telling his head coach he wants to stay in there. Trapp. And we'll get the bump. I believe that's going to go against Derek Bruce.
Foul on Derek Bruce.
Trapp with a crossover.
4th, 16 foul.
And for Bruce,
number 15, Marquis Sullivan.
personal foul number 4 for him, so he's in big-time foul trouble.
Pete, we had a player by the name of Donnell Bruce here a few years ago with about the same body build there.
Out of Branchville, South Carolina, back in the late 80s. I think he really light it up.
He could.
Long range. Oliver is back in the ball game. The freshman can't get that one to go. Rebound, and it's taken by McClellan. Goes the other way, and an offensive foul is called. Good job that time by Clyde Trapp to draw the charge.
That's the biggest play you can make for your basketball team right there. Take a charge. Took away the fast break opportunity for Texas Southern. Got a foul call on the Texas Southern player and gained possession of the ball.
And as you've noted, Jim, we haven't seen Marquise, or Shelton Mitchell rather, here in the second half as Marquise Reed brings it up. And you do wonder if there's an issue. Didn't appear he did anything in the first half that would, from an injury standpoint, would keep him open the bench.
He was playing really well.
Spencer, nice move, loads up for 2, and Scott Spencer getting into the scoring column. His first field goal of the afternoon. The Tigers have their biggest lead so far, 12 points on Texas Southern.
Speaking of Texas Southern setting their shots up with a nice shot fake, that was a great shot fake.
Tigers on a 13-5 run. Clark feeding it to the corner. Bruce fires, no, and Thomas the rebound. By Trapp with Marquise Reed getting 2 quick fouls. And now with Shelton Mitchell not seeing a lot of action. Trapp seeing all kinds of time in this game. And the freshman draining the tray. Tigers in the ball game have made 7 3-pointers. The lead swells to 15. For Trapp, his first collegiate 3, and the answer on the other end by Derek Bruce. So on a day of a couple of players either exceeding or matching their career high in points, a milestone reached by a freshman, Clyde Trapp, with that first made 3-pointer. Now 1 out of 2 in his career beyond the arc. Trapp and Oliver, a couple of freshmen on the floor. Thomas reversing for Spencer. Oliver takes the rebound try away from Marquise Salmon, and a fresh 30. And Mike Davis, boy, he is angry at his team for not coming away with that 50-50 rebound. Reed drives inside, and if that's on Bruce, let's see if they count it first, and they will. And Derek Bruce will foul out. That's his 5th. Clyde Trapp right there. Giving it up for Marquise Reed, but Trapp also reason to smile as he knocked down his first career 3-pointer. And so we'll get a timeout on the court as Bruce is fouled out. We are still not in an official timeout range. And now 7 team fouls on Texas Southern. Mike Davis has said that he wants his team to get up and down the court, but he doesn't want them to get out of control. He said today there's no way his ball club could get out of control. But so far over their first 5 games, he said, you know, when we started to against some of these teams we played, I wouldn't call a timeout. I want them to figure it out themselves.
Right.
Today, I think he comes into Littlejohn knowing there wouldn't be a huge crowd here because of the holiday weekend, knowing it's a Clemson team coming off a loss. It's like a pretty solid Clemson team so far, but I think he felt like today he would try to reel things in a little bit more. You've noticed Texas Southern playing more of a half-court game, and this might be the first ball game where now he starts kind of coaching like he will once they get into conference play.
And he's working hard in that huddle there during the timeout. I've been sitting here watching. We're very close to him here, and he's got that board out, and he is really, really working hard, inspiring his players, trying to motivate his players, and this is a very good basketball team. They will be really, really good in the SWAC when they get back into conference play.
Marquise Reed trying to get a free throw to complete the 3-point play. And we're actually now 18 fouls on Texas Southern.
That's a great job of finishing on Marquise Reed's part there.
Yeah, it really was. Through that foul. Look at the move by Jefferson. Can't get it to go. Salmon battles inside, but Thomas coming away with the rebound. So a double-double for Eli Thomas. Not only a career-high matching 17 points, but 10 rebounds in the game. Thomas came in averaging just under 8. Reed dogged far from the basket by Jefferson. Tigers look to build their biggest lead of the afternoon. Spencer on the drive. Doing a good job inside to draw the charge is Marquise Salmon, the Wagner transfer, originally from Lancaster, California. See the contact, and Scott Spencer picking up his first foul. Tigers now with 5.
Here in the second half, Clemson's done a great job of passing the basketball. Good ball movement, good player movement. That was a case where they might have overpassed there. They passed up a good open shot.
You wonder how this Jefferson got away from Wisconsin, Milwaukee, or schools like that in his hometown of Milwaukee. There's a little deflection inside, no, but there's a 7-2 read, rejected by Thomas, and Oliver comes away with it. Great down-low defense by Eli Thomas and his teammates. Little crossover, Reed goes around the other Reed, but can't finish. And here comes Texas Southern, little strip steal try, but Clark able to keep it alive for Texas Southern. McClellan. Now Jefferson from downtown. Almost got his own rebound. Let's see if they get Texas Southern's read. No, they're going to instead call it on Shelton. And that'll be the 16th foul of the Tigers at Clemson, and second on Shelton. Good work down low. Thomas and Oliver. The Tigers cruising by 15. Tigers enjoying their biggest lead of the afternoon, the Clemson Tigers, that is, over the Tigers of Texas Southern, 65-50. With Jim Davis, Pete Ganity with you back in Littlejohn Coliseum, a mid-afternoon Friday game of Thanksgiving weekend. Texas Southern Road Warriors they are. Head on up to the Detroit area. They'll actually base out of the same hotel for games against Oakland. And then Toledo, they've got another trip back out west. They've already been to the Pacific Northwest once this year when they play at Oregon. Going to get another Big 12 opponent, having played Kansas. They'll play at Baylor and so on down the line. Again, they don't play a home game until their conference opener in early January. The Tigers, meanwhile, off to Columbus against Ohio State next week. And also will be playing a neutral site game against Florida down in the state of Florida, the Orange Bowl Classic. But in between that, games we'll have for you on the ACC network against UNC, Asheville, and Samford. That Samford team, don't sleep on them. They're a team that could win a SoCon title. They're coached by former Kentucky standout Scott Padgett. He's got one of the better point guards in the country, Christian Cunningham, and some guys around him. That could be a tough battle in here on December 9th. Drive inside by Clark, no, but a foul on Eli Thomas going for the rebound.
Foul is called on Elijah Thomas. That's his first. Tigers 7.
Don't know really where the contact must have been a push before both he and Trayvon Reed elevated. 7 now on Clemson, 8 on Texas Southern, so 1-1 free throw opportunities for each team. And we talked about all the travel, the nearly 19,000 miles this Texas Southern team will do before they play that first home game in conference play. But they are resourceful. For example, when they played at Gonzaga and at Washington State to start the year, they just based out of the same hotel in Spokane and made the 70-mile drive down to Pullman and then flew back out of Spokane. And they'll do the same, staying at the same hotel in Detroit to play games in Oakland and Toledo. Toledo's not all that far from Detroit, Michigan. Grantham, quiet day scoring for him, but he was able to get a field goal, and he's now slowly pushing his way to a 10-point game. He's got 8 so far.
That's a great curl cut by Grantham off the screen by Eli Thomas.
Look at Jefferson, 5'7". A little off-balance shot. He's building on his total this afternoon. Dozen points for him, but he came in averaging 22 a game. Scored 24 against Kansas. Still no Shelton Mitchell. I don't believe we've seen Mitchell at all in the second half of the Tigers. Here, Thomas lost the handle on what would have been a potential dunk. That time, though, able to rekindle and go right up over the 7-2 lead. Tigers lead of 15, matching their biggest this afternoon.
All right.
And Eli Thomas now with a new career high. He's got 19 in the game, so in the past 8 days he's established new career highs. Both have come here at Clemson, the Texas A&M transfer. And a double-double this afternoon with 11 rebounds to go with those 19 points. And Marquise Reed, who hadn't committed a foul in a long time, picking up one right there.
Here's a great job by Eli Thomas of screening down for Grantham. Grantham reads the screen, makes a curl cut, and gets the basket, kissed it off the glass. Great job of executing right there, and once again, scoring in paint.
Dante Grantham coming in 70% field goal on the overall category into this ball game. That's almost double what he did last year, and you can just see a different player. And then going to that NBA tryout was beneficial just to learning a little bit more about himself in the game at a high level.
No question.
Summer. Nothing doing that time for a pretty good free throw shooter, Jefferson. Tigers a chance to build their biggest lead of the afternoon with this trip.
I tell you, Jefferson is a leader out there too, Pete. He's all-time encouraging.
Reversal to Reed. Good rebound by Thomas. Got a dozen on the boards now to go with 19 points. Actually 13 rebounds for Eli Thomas. About to potentially match the 15 they had against Ohio when he scored those 17 points. But when he made the previous field goal, he established a career high with those 19 points we noted. Now a chance to add to that against a school from his home state. Elijah Thomas, he knows about scoring. He once had 49 points in a high school game.
That's not bad. You could lock me in the gym all night long and I couldn't score 49, Pete.
Native of Dallas, of course, began his career at Texas A&M. And was highly regarded when the Aggies got him out of high school. And really now in year number 2 in this Clemson program, showing a lot of that promise he had when he arrived in college basketball.
He's been so good tonight, not just his efficiency, but his energy. He has really been giving a great effort, I think, more so than any game I've ever seen him play.
And 2 out of 2 on free throws, 21 points. And that matches game-high honors with Gabe DeVoe. They each have 21. Each has established a career high, and they've been the big story. 42 of Clemson, 71 points out of Eli Thomas and Gabe DeVoe. Baseline. Now the kick to Scott. And there's Eli Thomas. Another rebound.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere.
All over the place for him. Devontae Lumpkin, number 23, right there near the top of the lane, just checked in for Texas Southern for the first time today. And not far from him, the Tigers of Clemson turn it over. Dante Grantham in the win last Friday against Hofstra matched his career high of 22 points with a pump fake by Scott. The preseason all-SWAC player, senior out of Omaha, gets back in the scoring column, back to a 15-point game. You know, Brad Brownell and his staff look at this game as one that, if Clemson's able to get itself in a position to be in the conversation heading up to Selection Sunday, he thinks that Texas Southern would just pick to win their league again. They've been dominating now for the better part of the last 5 years in their league, but you can get a win against a team like this. It's going to show you beat a conference champion in a non-conference game as opposed to bringing a middle-of-the-road team in from one of the mid-major conferences. So,
and their RPI has got to be high with all the road games against the top-level competition.
Believe it or not, it's at 83 coming into today, but that factors in because there's so many marquee games early in the year that even though other teams also have lousy records as they do, they've still played really good teams too. There's Jefferson, see what he can do. They've got a chance. They've had the past 5 players of the year in their league. The guy who won it last year could have been back, Zach Lofton. We noted he's scoring 25 a game in New Mexico. I think they've got a candidate in Jefferson. He was a preseason all-SWAC player. But their strength of schedule, which they aren't computing yet, at least in the metric I saw, hasn't been calculated yet, but by the time they get done with this December schedule against who they play, it is going to be something. Nice job, Jefferson, off the quick turnover. Wow! 6 quick points for Jefferson, turning a 17-point deficit into a 73-62 ball game, and Brad Brownell now says, let's hold things up. Good job by Texas Southern to create the turnover, and Jefferson with the quick strike. Mike Davis has no problem sending his team against Power 5 opponents on the road, and what was a 17-point deficit is cut down to 11 by Texas Southern. We look at their upcoming schedule again. You notice they've got that trip to Oregon in December. It'll be their second trip out to the Pacific Northwest this year, having already played in Spokane against Gonzaga and Pullman, Washington against Washington State. I couldn't help but notice on their roster, they've got a guy named Clark, one of their starters, Dante Clark, and a guy named Lewis, Robert Lewis. So they've got a Lewis and Clark. And I find that interesting. And then keep in mind, too, we've seen the exploits of DeMontre Jefferson, their very fine guard, number 3 for them out there on the court. Well, keep in mind when the Lewis and Clark expedition was authorized, it was authorized by a president, Thomas Jefferson. So they've also got a Jefferson on the team to tie together and wrap up our brief history lesson here for you. Gabe DeVoe saw the trap coming, and he'll use Clemson's 3rd timeout.
32nd timeout.
And that leaves the Tigers with 1. I've got Texas Southern with 2 timeouts left. So Brad Brownell, he wants his team to go on an expedition over these final 351 to get win number 5, and that looked like it was a shoo-in just moments ago. But Texas Southern, with that quickness, we really haven't seen them trap all that much, but they've got the ability with the guys they have, not necessarily a long team, but a very athletic team that can get out there and pressure you into a corner or against the midcourt line on the sideline.
They forced him right to the corner there, just across the half line, and he was forced to call a timeout. You know, they got that young freshman point guard, the guy by the name of Clyde Trapp, who's played very, very well today in Shelton Mitchell's absence in the second half. But he's a freshman, and sometimes these situations, those freshmen seem to play like freshmen.
Dante Grantham at 6'8", but a good ball handler. You notice he took the inbound. And again, we have not seen Shelton Mitchell here in the second half, and that's going to be an illegal screen against Elijah Thomas. I believe that's his second personal foul. Tigers now with 15 turnovers. That's on the Clemson side. Texas Southern Tigers with 9. Gotta watch out for this guy. He can score in an instant. Texas Southern keeps it. Jefferson drives, stops, pops, no. Rebound, battled for and won by Thomas. Over the back foul will be called on Marquis Salmon. That'll be his second, and Elijah Thomas has matched the 15 boards he had last week against Ohio to go with 21 points. So he's having another fine ball game, and he'll walk to the other end and look to add to that point total with a 2-shot opportunity as Texas Southern has put the Tigers in the double bonus.
And this is where the basketball game will be won if they can maintain that lead right here at the free throw line, because they're going to get to the free throw line and shoot those double bonuses.
Thomas coming in at 67% from the line this year, and gets the bounce and the roll. By the way, the crowd, these Clemson cheerleaders, I think there are only a handful of them here today. You've got just about the full Rally Cat squad. 15 rebounds, matching the career high that he established last week. So with one more, he'll have a career high afternoon in that category. And apparently it's an issue that will need the attention of the athletic trainer for Thomas. Maybe a blood issue. As you see, he'll head down to the end of the bench. I don't think it has anything to do with any kind of injury, but
I can't tell you how impressed I am with Elijah Thomas and how well he's played today in every phase of the game. I mean, he has been so aggressive going after those rebounds. On the defensive end, he's been very much under control. Foul trouble has been his albatross ever since he's been here. And as you said, he just committed his second foul just a moment ago. So great job. Someone has been working very hard on the coaching staff, working with Elijah Thomas.
So it was a issue on the right arm they had to get worked out. Thomas a chance to again make this a 13-point Clemson lead. The benefit out of this game, as you talked about, Jim, Clyde Trapp. You see his left arm right there on your screen, the freshman out of Columbia's Lower Richland, one of the highly regarded incoming players in this freshman class, is getting extended minutes today, and that's certainly going to help with the Tigers building depth. And this could really be a 10 or 11 man rotation once David Scarr comes back for Clemson, one of the transfers, and these young players get further into the rotation. Jefferson over to Clark, who stepped on the sideline. The turnover for Texas Southern, and that'll be their 11th, or I should say their 10th of the afternoon.
DeMontre Jefferson has played every minute of this game, and that's the first turnover he's had right there.
Wow. Reed, dogged by Scott, feeding underneath Thomas. And Salmon will be called for the foul. And that'll be the third on the grad student out of Lancaster, California. Transfer from Wagner. And once again, Eli Thomas looking to build on this career afternoon. He leads all scorers with 22 points so far. Gabe DeVoe, a career high with 21. And Jefferson, who was in single digits at the break, is at 18 points to lead the way for Texas Southern. And Thomas now from the line, a solid afternoon, 5 out of 7 so far.
You know, you need to give Coach Davis and his staff credit too. They've got all these transfers coming in there. It's not easy being able to blend a group of players and getting to play as well as a team as this group is.
14-point lead And as we talked about earlier, this is the third straight year that Texas Southern's come to play in the upstate. Twice against Clemson, and then in between that, last year when they took on North Carolina in the opening round of the NCAA tourney. And going into that North Carolina game, I asked Mike Davis if it was any small advantage for his team that only his team and Duke had played in that building within the last year, because Duke had played Clemson there as well. And he mentioned last year he'd pretty much turned his entire roster over from the year before. But this year they do have a core of guys who were with them last year that are back, and they've added in those Division I transfers. Kevin Scott is one of the guys who's been in the program now for a couple of years, and he hits that first free throw.
Now that's Coach Brownell went to the 2-2-1 containment press. It was supposed to slow down the offense of Texas Southern there, but they split the guards and really
let's see, ball knocked out of bounds or a reach-in foul. Reach-in
got
foul
a foul
on Jefferson in his second. Yeah, he did make an adjustment, in fact, in the first half. That did start to change things as it denied the penetration.
Right.
And they had 18 first-half points in the paint, just like Clemson did. And since then, in the points in the paint category, Tigers, at that last dead ball, it opened up a 38-26 advantage. And again, that speaks to what Thomas has done down low. Gabe DeVoe with some of his penetration buckets in the second half as well. And Marquise Reed, quiet in the first half, spent a whole lot of time over on the bench, and not much scoring out of him today. But he hits a couple of free throws, so he's got a half a dozen in the ballgame. Inside, Scott, pretty move as he finishes with the right hand left to the basket. 12-point ball game. See what Texas Southern's doing now. Their goal, I don't think it's necessary to get a trap here just to disrupt. Well, in that case, Scott almost took it away, and it'll be called for the foul.
it is such an advantage to have someone like Dante Grantham with his size at 6'8", being able to handle a basketball like that, because he can pass over those traps. He can pass over those double teams.
Scott picking up his fourth foul. He is known for his quickness, you just saw on that drive to the bucket. And Grantham stepping the line, 77% on the season. That's his first free throw of the afternoon. And with another make, he'll have another double-figure scoring day, and that'll give the Tigers 4 in double figures. Of course, Grantham 13 points, 9 boards the other night against Temple, and he got 22 last Friday against Hofstra, and that's his career high. Wouldn't be surprised if Jefferson loads up from out there and almost on cue. He can't get it to go. Salmon battling for the rebound. Loga Thomas on the tackle.
I shouldn't have said anything about Eli avoiding foul trouble, because I believe that was his fourth.
That's his third, actually, but still, as you were saying, he's done a nice job to stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah. But that's a hustle foul right there. He's going after the ball.
Marquise Salmon out of Wagner. Maybe you've heard of it, but no idea where it is. It's located on Staten Island in New York City. And the grad student who was just 2 out of 4 from the line coming into the game hits that free throw. One of the many Division I basketball programs in that New York metro area. There are tons of them. Most of them don't play football, so you only hear about them during basketball season. As Salmon makes 2, and it's 79-68. He hails from California, so he's from Lancaster, California, which is in Southern Cal. He played in New York City, now he's in Houston, so he's seen different thirds of the country during his life. In an 11-point game, that's as close as Texas Southern's been, but they look to get even closer. Salmon on the run out. Reed the foul, and back to the line will go Marquise Salmon. Mike Davis is doing his act out here in front of us. He's been working the refs, talking to the scorers table these last couple of minutes. That time he wanted an intentional foul called on Reed, or at least give him the basket because it was swatted from behind, and he and one of our officials out there, Chuck Jones, are smiling back and forth at each other. Salmon, 3 straight for him, and a chance to make it a single-digit deficit with this next attempt. Now Jones, the ref, comes over and has something to say to Davis, all in good fun. And he can't get it that time, so 3 out of 4 from the line for Salmon. Reed in the backcourt, Grantham. Now trapped. The Tigers get it across the line with a second to spare, and DeVoe to Thomas. Isn't that appropriate for this afternoon? Eli Thomas, a huge game, 26 points now. Lead back out to 12. DeVoe the rebound. And we'll head the other way. Boy, how about Gabe DeVoe, who came in averaging just under 2 assists a game, but that's the prettiest one he'll have this season. And Eli Thomas, a thunderous finish, so 26 points, well beyond his career high, and a career high now with 16 rebounds for the Tigers big man. Almost another turnover that time. Coming up on a minute to play. DeVoe looking for another assist, out of bounds, back over to Texas Southern.
It's another case where they were overpassing a little bit. Gabe DeVoe had a 4-footer right in front of the basket.
Texas Southern, before getting blown out 114-71 at Kansas the other night, as the feed goes down low in the finish by Sanders. They had lost by 13 in the Carrier Dome against Syracuse. That was a game without Jefferson. And this one knocked out of bounds to Clemson. Texas Southern bench thought it was going their way. Mike Davis says he wants them to look at the replay. But they had played a competitive game against Syracuse. The outcome at Ohio State, an 18-point loss, isn't as close as that game was. Lost by 2 in overtime to Washington State, a game they had the big lead in. They've really only been blown out twice this year, 97-60 to open up against the great Gonzaga team, and then 114-71 against a Kansas team that's probably going to be a conversation piece for the Final Four.
Ranked 3 in the country currently.
Ranked 3 in the country. So you figure that they've got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. It looks like they're about to fall to 0-6 here, and again, they could have a very ugly record, and that so often happens with teams out of mid-major conferences that play the tough schedules. We take another look at what they're looking at the scorers table, and I'm not so sure we got the best view of it there. But if they run through their conference and win 12 or 13 games, they still may only have, and then 2 or 3 games in their tournaments. They may get to the NCAAs at 15 and 16, 16 and 15, but they are so dangerous.
And nobody wants to play them.
Nobody
wants to play them.
And again, if they can get it to where the committee looks over what they've done, if they run through their league with only 1 or 2 losses, they might get bumped up to a 14 seed because of the schedule. Mike Davis brings obviously a certain reputation with him and credibility with that. And they get into a 14-3 game. I'll tell you what, when you're making out your bracket, think long and hard about that one because it'll be a tough one to play. Look at the steal, the feed, and the finish. It all started with Scott. He got it to Lumpkin, and then Clark the finish. And it's a single-digit deficit, 8-point game. And let's see. On the baseline, a timeout is called before Grantham got it in, and Brad Brownell using his final timeout as Texas Southern is not going away. Look at this. As the Texas Southern Tigers are back within 8. They trailed by as many as 17 not long ago. So look what happened on that steal started by Kevin Scott, who had 7 of them when the year began. Great quickness, keeps it in play, and then haven't seen a whole lot today out of Devontae Lumpkin, but he found Dante Clark underneath. And it's an 8-point game, still with 56.9 to go. Each team with the other in the double bonus. And you see the Tigers, that should have been their 4th timeout used, so I'm somebody out of timeouts. Texas Southern, this full court pressure, I wonder if Mike Davis will think, when we start playing some of these non-power 5 teams ahead like in Oakland or Toledo, then once we get in our league, maybe we just play this thing 94 feet. They could do a lot what Oliver Purnell's teams did at Clemson, create a lot of turnovers close to the basket, get some cheap buckets.
Well, I don't think there's any question. He likes what he's seeing right now, and he will turn out using this in games just like you mentioned, Pete. I'd like to see him bring Elijah Thomas up to the top of the key and throw it up to the big man and cut someone off of him to defeat the press here. But they're running too deep in the corner. The Clemson players are running too deep in the corner where even if they do catch the inbound pass, they're automatically trapped.
Next home game at our next telecast coming up on Sunday the 3rd. That'll be a week from Sunday. 3 p.m. against the Bulldogs of UNC Asheville out of the Big South Conference. So Texas Southern with 2 timeouts remaining. Clemson out of timeouts, and the freshman trap looking inbound against Lumpkin. Here comes a trap by Lumpkin and Scott, but Tigers get it across. Reed with Thomas open underneath. And the Tigers will back it back out, trying to use clock. Mike Davis telling his team to foul somebody, and they foul the 77% shooter Grantham. I think he wanted someone to foul Thomas when he touched the ball briefly. And that's going to be the 5th on the very athletic Kevin Scott, his day will end with 14 points, and as we've noted, he's a preseason all-SWAC player, and we saw why today. Kind of plays a 3, at times will play a 4. He's 6'4", but his quickness really creates some matchup issues against some other 4s.
He really can. He is very athletic, no doubt about it, and tough. He's got some toughness about him.
Grantham 1 out of 2 from the line today, making 1 out of 3 for the guy who was pushing 80%. Tigers on free throws today. And as a team are 14 out of 19. Texas Southern's hit 16 of their 18 free throws. 1 out of 2 for Dante, still a 3-possession game. Jefferson, quickness, blows by the Tiger defenders. And it's a 2-possession game. I'm sorry, it's a 7-point game. Still a 3-possession ball game, but Texas Southern gets within 7 now. And in that situation, I'm sure the thought process was try to get the quick 2. And then if you go for a steal, that's when we'll start trying to heave the 3s. And a nice move that time by Jefferson, and another 20-point game for the sophomore out of Milwaukee.
Dynamite comes in small packages, Pete. That young man can play the game.
We've seen some good players in here so far. Femi Olaboji out of North Carolina A&T, Lujaby rather, out of North Carolina A&T, and he leads the nation in scoring at better than 29 points a game. And now they've seen this guy, Demontre Jefferson, 22 points a game. He's just below that, but he'll probably stay in the 20s all year long.
Jefferson reminds me of a young man who's sitting on the Clemson bench down there, Terrell McIntyre. Same type player, same size.
Back working with the Clemson coaching staff after a long time playing pro overseas, Terrell McIntyre. Terrence Oglesby is part of this Clemson coaching staff now, and Trapp, well, he thought about passing it. He dragged his foot, so there's the turnover. So again, still a 3-possession game, but do you think about it, too, to make it a 2-possession game, or maybe try to get this to a 4-point battle, so if they make free throws, you still would only need 2 threes in a best-case scenario?
And once again, Shelton Mitchell is still seated on the bench here. That's the freshman making that freshman mistake we talked about earlier. He's played well, though.
Turnover for the Tigers, who now have 19 in the game. That's well above their 12.6 average. Demontre Jefferson sees the defense come. He's not worried about the shot clock, and reach and foul. It'll be against Marquise Reed. And that'll be the 5th on the Clemson guard. Remember, he picked up 2 quick ones, so he sat out most of the first half. And with Reed fouling out, the Tigers will get a minute to determine who to send in there. First player to foul out for Clemson, Reed, while Bruce and Scott have both fouled out. For Texas Southern, 2 of their starters. And just a 5-point afternoon for Reed, who came in averaging 13 points a game. And of course, he's over 900 in his career, so he's thinking about getting to 1,000, and that would only be in 3 seasons playing. The first season, of course, for Marquise Reed or Robert Morris. For the Texas Southern, the team 16 out of 18 on free throws. This guy Jefferson 2 out of 3, and he gets the roll. There's Terrell McIntyre, played on those really good Rick Barnes teams. He wasn't part of the Slab 5. He and Harold Jamison and others arrived at Clemson the year after that, and Terrell McIntyre went to either an NCAA or an NIT tourney in his 4 years in the Clemson program. So now it's a 2-possession game, 5-point Texas Southern deficit after the 2 free throws by Jefferson. And he matched the scoring average, 22 points, and Shelton that time fouled by Salmon. I'm not so sure Mike Davis necessarily minds that, because Scott Shelton just hasn't played a whole lot of college basketball after playing only 6 games last year because of injury, and you're putting him in a real difficult spot in this point in the game.
No question.
Right in front of us is where we've seen a lot of Mike Davis here in the second half, talking with some of the scores table officials and conversations while the game's going on. And Shelton hitting the first free throw, and a big one at that.
That was huge.
Big free throw made right there.
This is even bigger.
Scott Spencer rather, and Spencer able to hit the first but missed the second. He went to the line, having not taken a free throw coming into the game. That one forced by Jefferson, nothing doing, and now the foul as Trapp got the rebound. So you felt better if you're a Clemson fan when Scott Spencer made that first free throw to at least make it a full 2-possession game, and then Jefferson trying to make it a 1-possession ball game can't do that, and that just might have done it here.
Foul called on one, Dante Clark.
Good job by Trapp. And again, Trapp at 6'4" can go in there and grab a rebound for you too, and you can just see what an upside he has in this Tigers program after that fine high school career. Number 4 rated prospect in South Carolina. Played AAU ball for former Tiger Edward Scott, but he can't hit the front end of the 2-shot opportunity right there. Hughes, 1 out of 2, 3-possession game, 7-point advantage, 14.1 to go. Texas Southern has to score in a hurry. Jefferson, step back, and won't get it to fall. DeVoe going to get the rebound. He will just dribble away. The Tigers will see the seconds wind down. Spencer will hang on to it, and the Clemson Tigers will survive a late 13-6 run by Texas Southern. As Clemson improves to 5-1 on the season, Texas Southern 0-6, but they have given some of the big boys some pretty good battles here in the early going of this 2017 and 18 campaign, and they end up falling here against Clemson 84-77.
Well, once again, I just think DeVoe and Thomas, I've never seen Thomas play a better basketball game, and I still think he's got more of that in him.
Yeah, they both do. Career high days for Thomas, 26 points, DeVoe 21 points, and Eli Thomas a career high in rebounds as well with 16. For Jim Davis, Pete Hannity saying so long. This has been a presentation of ESPN.